Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus, and welcome back to the Acting and Modeling Success Summit. We have a special guest right now who's also a friend of mine. His name is Joe Henson, and Joe is a New York-based headshot photographer. He's been shooting people for over 30 years, and sit down for this one. He has actually shot over 16,000 clients. 16,000. And he also travels. I mean, he's based in New York, his studio's in New York, but he also travels around and shoots people in other areas as well. So, first of all, Joe, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the summit.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Aaron, and I hope that your listeners learn a lot today.
I'm sure they will. I am sure they will. So, as a headshot photographer, you know, with today's digital technology, sometimes people will say, really, do I really need to spend money on a headshot photographer? Look, I'm an actor. I can get my next door neighbor to take a nice picture of me. It will show what I look like. Really, why do I have to bother hiring a headshot photographer?
And you want to know what I think about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I understand, with digital photography, everybody's a headshot photographer, really, because you can take 1,000 pictures, and if you get a couple of good ones, you've got yourself a good headshot. But what I concentrate on is professionalism and predictability. And the difference between hiring a professional headshot photographer and having an amateur or somebody who's just starting out do your pictures is that there's the potential in working with a professional is to get something that places you clearly in a market with a knowledge of what that market is and how to translate that performer into a presence in that market that gets interest and gets calls. And it's partly technical stuff, it's partly aesthetics, but it's also a knowledge of what agents and casting people and people in the industry need to see to get the right information to understand that particular person.
Yeah, and look, we've shot together. It's not just a matter of having somebody look into the lens of a camera and you pushing your finger on the button. Although I guess you could do it with your feet, but you do it with your hands. But the thing is, one of the things that you do that I think is really incredible is, I mean, not only are you a phenomenal photographer, but you also have to wear many different hats. I mean, along with, like you were saying, understanding what agents in that particular area are looking for, what the casting directors are looking for, what the producers are looking for in a specific style of headshot. But what you do that I think is really unique and special, and what also separates you from other people, is you are also part therapist. And you have this really keen ability to talk with somebody and understand who they are, or at least how they're going to be and should be presented to all the different industry professionals. And that's not something that every technician has or every next door neighbor would have.
Well, I definitely assume that it's part of my job to help people through the process. And actors, performers, no matter how much time they spend in front of a film camera or on a stage, have a more difficult time getting in front of a still camera. And part of my job is facilitating the atmosphere and the mood to make people feel comfortable and to free them so that they feel expressive in their face and how they present themselves to the camera. My job is to loosen people up and make them feel confident. And I shoot tethered to a computer. First shot I take goes down a wire and comes up on a monitor for them to look at. And the ability for them to see how good they look right off the bat really takes a lot of the heat out of the experience. It makes the person feel confident that what they're getting is really good and maybe even better than they expected.
Well, and you also have a very warm, friendly demeanor, and I can tell you from my experience, I mean, not only with doing headshots, but also being a commercial model. if you're not comfortable with the photographer, it doesn't really matter how good of a technician the person is because the camera is going to pick up that uncertainty and that uncomfortability. And one of the things that you do, at least when we've shot together, and I see it in other headshots that you've done, is that you do have this ability to relax people, make them feel comfortable, uh, get get into people's minds so that they, like you were saying, they do feel the confidence. So, do you typically sit down with people or talk with people prior to the session?
I do definitely have a conversation, at least on the phone, with the people that I'm going to shoot. I would say that 90% of the people I photograph now, I never meet in person until the day of the shoot. But that's not really a problem for me because um, the minute I see someone, I understand what they need in a photograph to be a useful picture for the kinds of stuff they want to do. My demeanor, how I react to people, it's pretty similar with everyone. I find the things that I like about people and I concentrate on that, and it creates a connection between us that makes people feel like I'm interested in them and that I want the best for them and that they can trust me. And that's all you really need to create the right mood for taking photographs.
You know, one of the things that you did with me before our photo session, which I never experienced before, that I thought was a great idea, you suggested that I take out a bunch of clothes that I'm considering wearing for the photo shoot and just lay them out and shoot them and send you some digital shots of the clothing. And I thought that was brilliant because that way you were able to pick and choose the items that you thought would look best with the background that you have or even with shooting outside. And certainly, I mean, I brought a lot of things because I wanted to give you a lot of options also, but at least that way it answered a lot of the questions that I had as far as, colors, patterns, and things like that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of aspects to doing headshots that feels like a mystery to the person that I'm shooting. And one of the most stressful aspects of preparing for the session is trying to figure out what you should wear. For me, it's pretty straightforward. You want your clothing to not feel like a costume. It should feel like something you would normally wear, but it should also be skewed toward the market that you're trying to work in. So if you're interested in TV commercials, you want to portray yourself in the environment that you would be cast in for a TV commercial, which basically is either a casual environment for family, health, pop culture products, or a professional environment for business, for corporate work, for industrials. And what you look like, what looks good on you in real life will usually look good in a photograph. But I do try to take advantage of all of the technology that's available to us to exchange information quickly and easily. And people will go shopping and take a quick shot of themselves trying on an outfit and send it to me. And if I'm available, I'll respond back and give them a thumbs up or down on what they're buying or what they're thinking of buying. You can try different clothes on and shoot a little gallery over to me. You can lay things out on the bed, like you said. But we can use all of the technology that's available to have quick back and forth on preparation. That's why I don't have to meet people because I'm emailing and texting and sending back and forth photographs. And as long as I've got some visual in front of me of what they look like, I can usually help them prepare in a really useful way.
Hey, Joe, are there any specific colors that you would typically say don't wear to a photo shoot?
Well, the longer I've done this, and I've been doing this for 30 years, the less I'm sure of. I I know that I don't want the clothing to be distracting, so I don't want busy patterns, bold prints, anything that draws your eye more to the clothing. They use that in a photograph to sell the clothing. We're selling people. We want the clothing to be a frame for your face. And I've heard all kinds of rules about what not to wear and what to wear in a photograph. And most of them I feel are maybe old fashioned and not valid anymore, but the main rules to me are it should look good around your face. It should frame your face in a way that brings out the angles and the structure of your face, and that it should go with your coloring, the clothing, the colors. It should complement the coloring that you have, your hair and your skin tones. And a long time ago, I went and took a class at Color Me Beautiful, which was really one of the first consultants that did color analysis for people. And it was really useful to see the palettes that work with your skin tones and your hair. And, there are books of that kind of stuff for people to look through and sort of line themselves up with the models that they have to represent the different color palettes I think they divide it into seasons, but there's a lot of ways to do it. It's a useful thing to do.
And what would you suggest for somebody? So they're coming in to do a headshot session with you. You've talked with them a little bit on the set, and they're just feeling very nervous. They're really not sure what they should be doing. Maybe it's their first headshot session. They're not really sure as to what kind of look they're going after, how they're going to be cast. What do you say? I mean, aside from just letting people see the shots on your monitor, but what do you say to somebody just to try to help relax them a little bit?
Well, the main thing is not to psych yourself out with this experience. I tell people to look at it as a job. Uh, if you don't get a lot of good sleep the night before, or if you don't feel your best, you're still going to have to show up on the job. And the only moment that counts is the moment I take the picture. And almost anybody, no matter what they've been through or are going through, can suck it up for that 1 second that they need to look good in a photograph. So that's part of the experience is not giving yourself a lot of outs, but also just realizing that I'm there to help you and that you've got a whole team of people on your side. And it's not a difficult process when it's done correctly. It's actually a very simple, straightforward process to take a good photograph. It requires very little effort on the part of the person I'm shooting to look good. As long as they follow direction and listen to my instructions, they're going to look terrific.
Now, when the session is done, certainly your work is far from being done because then you've got to start going through all the shots. Do you offer suggestions at all for what photos you think might be best for them, or do you leave that up to the actor and the actor's representation?
Well, I try to shepherd my clients through the entire process because they're probably new to it or they haven't done it enough to really know how to cut corners and get right to the heart of things. My job is to take great pictures and flood them with possibilities, but help them see through all of the great shots to the ones that are the absolute best. So I help people pick their favorites and the ones that they're going to use. I make suggestions along the way on what retouching I would suggest and at what point to stop retouching, because that's a really interesting part of this experience is that some people, because they're given the possibility of making themselves perfect, want to exercise that possibility. The job of the retouching is to bring you back to how you look in real life. When you're frozen in a photograph, people see details that they would never see in real life, and some of those details can be distracting. So we remove the distracting details, but we want to leave your age range the right way so that you look the same way you look in real life. We don't want to make you look younger. We don't want to make you look different than you look in real life because the picture doesn't get the job. The actor gets the job. The picture is an entree, and the people who see the picture are expecting to see the same person walk in the door. So part of my job is keeping it true and real, but also bringing out the best of each person so that they do look their absolute best.
Yeah, I mean it's essential because to walk into a casting and have a photograph that's so retouched that you don't resemble the picture in any way, that's a horrible situation for the actor. It's also horrible for the agent as well because it makes them look irresponsible. So basically, when you're talking about retouching, if there are hairs that maybe are a little out of place, those are the kinds of basic things that you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about threads on clothes, hairs out of place, blemishes, things that are temporary, non-integral parts of the person's, presence. And uh, I'm happy to get rid of the things that take people's attention away from the eyes of the person I've shot.
But you're not going to offer, hey, by the way, you want me to whiten your teeth, straighten them out, take all those wrinkles out of your face? I guess those would not be things that are as
Well, the
part of
tooth
your
whitening,
job
tooth
description.
whitening is actually a fairly common part of the process because light doesn't get inside your mouth as much as it does on the outside of your face. And so teeth can look a little bit darker or dingier than they are in real life. And because a lot of people, most of the people I shoot now probably do a little bit of bleaching before they come in because it's not expensive and it's a fairly easy process and it's a very effective process.
But I guess the key thing is though you don't want to completely transform your mouth in a way that that it's going to look so totally different than when you actually walk into a casting. That's what you
No,
have to do.
absolutely. You don't want to do anything to your presence that makes your real presence a surprise once people have seen the photograph. The last thing you want to hear is how long ago was this taken, or anything that alludes to the fact that the people are expecting someone different than who walked in.
And something that you had mentioned earlier that was interesting. I mean, the fact is you want this photograph to look great, well, for a variety of reasons. One is because you take great pride in your work, but the other thing too is your reputation's on the line.
Yeah.
And so if somebody walks out of your studio with something that you think is subpar, which simply wouldn't happen, but that's a reflection on you as well. So any great photographer that is going to work with you is going to want a phenomenal product because their autograph is attached to it.
Well, that's definitely an important point that you've made. You know, using the people who are not professionals, um, it can result in the photograph being the product of a bunch of different people who may not be at their best at the top of their game. I require that the retouching be done through my retoucher, not because I want to fill his pockets with money, but because I have sought out the best retoucher I can find. I've trained this person. I've spent countless hours perfecting what they should be doing for my clients, and I go over every picture. So I don't want to just hand out an unretouched picture and have the people take it to a lab or someone I don't know or have a friend retouch it because it's going out in the end as my work, and I want to make sure that it's the best possible product that I can create. And the way I do that is to maintain control over the final product out of pride, out of making sure that when my name is attached to it, it rises to the level of quality that I demand of every part of what I do.
Hey, Joe, I know we're going to have to wind things up here right before we get to questions, but one last question. For somebody who's living, far away from you, they need a headshot photographer. Um, how would you recommend somebody go about trying to find someone to shoot with?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, basically, if you can't get to one of the major cities, I travel to Washington, D.C. once a month. I travel to Boston every 2 months. I'm based in Manhattan. But I think it's worth traveling to get a great headshot. I think that the people in the local markets tend to not do this as often because the market is not as full of people, and they're maybe not as cued into the styles and the current look of pictures, uh, so that the person who's spending the money comes away with a product that looks like somebody who's in the know, that knows what the business is about, knows what people are looking for, knows what styles are on trend. And so, I would say travel. I'd say find a major center where there's a lot of actors, and they'll probably find some good photographers there.
Great. Well, listen, let me start going to some questions because I see there are well, quite a few questions, and we have about 7 minutes to do this. This is from Janice in Texas, and she is asking what questions should she ask a headshot photographer when she is interviewing him or her?
Hey, Janice. Well, the main question, I guess, would be, have you done this before? You want to see a portfolio of stuff, and you want to know that they've got experience with different types of people. Uh, the questions that I particularly would ask to try to cut through the noise and get right to the heart of things, I would want to know if they do headshots for a living, because I think that the people who make their living doing something are going to put a lot more effort and a lot more knowledge into what they do. That's why going to someone who just does it part-time or is just starting will maybe not end up with the best product. So I would make sure that they do it for a living, see if they have a website. That's important. You want to be able to see what they're up to, and what they've done, and how they have put everything in writing about how they charge and what their policies are. That's where I would start.
And for somebody who, let's just say they're living in a smaller market, and I'm assuming that most photographers in smaller markets really wouldn't be able to make their living just doing headshots.
Yeah.
When they're looking at the photos, even if they technically don't really understand what's going on, is there something that people can look at and just observe and feel that, oh, this is a good photograph, even if they don't understand photography?
Yeah. The main thing is, do you feel connected to the photograph? Do you feel like the person in the picture is looking back at you? Do you feel like they're coming to you with some intention? Do you feel like they're not the victim of the photograph, but they're the actual creator of the photograph? It's important that people come off confident and connected in a photograph. And so you can feel that when you look at a picture. You can feel whether the person in the photograph is taking control of the situation and reaching out to you. And that would be, something that I would go for in every shot I take.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. Um, this is from Laurel in Pittsburgh. She is asking, do I need a makeup artist? And if so, should I use the photographer's makeup artist or should I find one on my own?
Well, I believe that every woman should have a hair and makeup artist, because concentrating on getting your photographs done is enough to worry about. Having someone there to take care of the translation process is really important. And I would go with the photographer's hair and makeup artist if you like their work, because they're used to working with the photographer. My hair and makeup artist and I have been together for about 15 years, and we practically communicate by telepathy. It's a big learning curve, and working with somebody where you have tried different bases and powders and how much contour is the right amount with my lighting, all of that stuff is really important. And bringing in somebody, even if they're really talented, bringing them in for the first time with a photographer is it's going to take a long time for them to kind of connect on what each person should be doing to make the picture look its best.
Now, when you say hair and makeup artist, you're talking about one person doing both, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the optimum. Then you're only paying one person.
Right.
And it's really hard to find people who do both hair and makeup very strongly. So for me, I've been shooting for 30 years. I've probably had 5 or 6 hair and makeup artists in all that time. Once I find a great one, I tend to stay with them, and we work until things change. Somebody moves or gets a different focus in their life. But it's important to, the photographer, my reputation rides on what they do. So I'm as more demanding about the quality of their work than any single client.
And the other thing too is if you bring in your own makeup artist and you do the photo session and your photos don't look very good because of the makeup, you can't go back to the photographer and say, hey, the makeup really, made me look bad. The photographer, is going to say, well, you decided to bring your own person. If it's your own, if it's the photographer's makeup artist and there's an issue with the makeup, then the photographer certainly would take care of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, uh, the way I get sort of through that process is to shoot tethered to the computer and look at things as we shoot, because
Right.
no hair and makeup artist can read people's minds. So I asked my hair and makeup artist to talk extensively before the session on what our client wants. And they can jump in and outline their eyes the way they like or make any kind of comment. It's not a makeover. It's not us creating a look on them. They're not passive. We ask the client to be part of the process and to weigh in on everything. And so we take a couple of test shots of each look and we analyze them on the monitor, and we're all clear on what we want and that we've got it before we delve into actually shooting that look.
Okay. Hey, Joe, we've got to wrap things up right now, but I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your information. For people who want to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Well, my website is joehenson.com, JoeHenson.com, and they can always reach me at my studio number, which is 212-463-0575. Even if I'm not there, it jumps to my cell phone. You can always reach me, call during business hours. But I'm easy to find, and I'm happy to talk with anybody who's thinking about doing pictures and explain to them how I work and how things go in my studio.
Well, Joe, thank you so much again. This was great. Really appreciate it. And we are going to be back in just a couple of minutes and look forward to talking with you again soon.
All right, great, Aaron. Thanks a lot.